Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story: tanks, cannons, and ships. A viral propaganda clip from the Chinese Communist Party stirs controversy, with calls for World War III sparking concern. But here's the twist: rallying cry isn't for soldiers, it's aimed at the nation's young gamers.
It's appealing to the younger audience because that's the majority of where you want the fighting force to be, young and active males.
U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Campbell raising the alarm about a surge of what he called economic migrants flocking to America from China. How is Beijing responding?
I think it's fair to say that the Chinese government is aware of it, probably a little concerned by it, but I don't think they've taken steps at this juncture to curtail it either.
Major U.S. airlines urging the Biden administration to pause additional flights between China and the United States. They point to what they deem anti-competitive policies pushed by the Chinese regime. And companies in Taiwan have backup plans on the brain in case of a Chinese invasion. What's their plan B? Bombs, airstrikes, and nationalism. A viral Chinese propaganda video is drawing mixed reactions from internet users. Some say it used gaming terminology to depict a World War III scenario, with China leading the battle. Let's zoom in.
Tanks, aircraft, cannons, and boots on the ground. This viral music video shows Chinese troops carrying out rounds of explosions and missile strikes. Its message: the regime's military is, quote, terrifyingly powerful for a new game season.
It's an attempt to sort of rally up the gamers and the couch potatoes in China to get with the nationalism sentiment, this overall preparation for war in Taiwan, and to basically test out if people are responding well.
The term game season often refers to the end of the year world final in gaming competitions. Lately, it's become a reference for World War III among internet users. After the video was released, it triggered a wave of nationalist sentiment online. Some said, unlike the previous two world wars, China is prepared to win the third one. Others in the comments section called for a standoff with the US and Japan to unify the world. One of them said, quote, if a world war is to break out, we must first eliminate Japan. At least we should swiftly destroy its military and ammunitions. But are any of these gamers ready to fight on the front line?
People that are screaming loudly online aren't combat ready at all, but it's to increase and boost the overall sentiment in China. So it's appealing to the younger audience because that's the majority of where you want the fighting force to be, young and active males.
The video was put out by a Communist Youth League account. Some people found the footage contains U.S. military and weapons. It also sparked arguments online. This internet user quoted English novelist George Orwell, saying, all the war propaganda, all the screaming and lies and hatred comes invariably from people who are not fighting.
There are comments suggesting, look at what Germany did in the last World War. They thought they were powerful as well, but it didn't end well for them. So never overestimate yourself.
Video games are hugely popular among young people in China. It's gotten to a point where esports terminologies are often used to compare with real-life scenarios. The CCP is directly in charge of overseeing the gaming sector and has rolled out a number of policies to gain control over the industry.
Among the illegal immigrants coming through the U.S. southern border, Chinese border crossers are the fastest growing group. But are they truly fleeing poverty, like news reports and agencies say? Here's what Deputy Secretary of State Campbell said during a town hall last week.
Steve, it has not gotten enough attention, but it is a remarkable thing. The number of Chinese economic migrants that have come to the United States over the course of the last, several months, number in the tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands. It is a remarkable thing. And many of the Chinese migrants that are coming have had to spend an enormous amount of money to get the airline tickets, to get down to join these groups that come up to the United States. And I think it's fair to say that the Chinese government is aware of it, probably a little concerned by it, but I don't think they've taken steps at this juncture to curtail it either. The truth is the numbers that we're seeing are large and frankly of gathering concern.
The term economic migrant refers to people who have chosen to move solely to improve their financial situation, though some argue that this group takes away jobs and social benefits from locals. Beijing responded to Campbell's remarks on Wednesday, saying China firmly opposes and would crack down on all forms of illegal immigration, but it didn't disclose more details on how it would proceed. Retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General Robert Spalding said these illegal Chinese immigrants could pose unprecedented threats to U.S. homeland security.
The real danger is they are here in the heart of America. It's a huge risk, and I don't think people are really recognizing it's one thing to have nuclear weapons and all these weapons that the Chinese Communist Party has made, but you don't need sophisticated weapons if you've got 2 or 3 divisions of people on the ground. You can take out civilian infrastructure very, very easily. The first is to secure the border. Second is to deport all these people.
According to official Border Patrol statistics, last year, over 37,000 Chinese immigrants were arrested at the U.S. southern border. That's nearly 10 times more than the year before, and more than double of the total caught in the past 10 years. Pressure is growing on the Biden administration to block additional flights to and from China. 2 lawmakers, plus Delta, United, and American Airlines, wrote letters to the U.S. Secretaries of State and Transportation. They asked the administration to be cautious about approving more flights between the 2 countries because of China's unfair market practices. The lawmakers are Congress members Mike Gallagher and Raja Krishnamurti, the chair and ranking member of the House Select China Committee. They said China effectively closed its aviation market to U.S. carriers during the pandemic. U.S. carriers have limited access to the Chinese aviation market. Plus, there are challenging rules that affect operations. The airline said the U.S. government needs to establish a policy to protect the aviation industry. A show of force aimed at China, the U.S., Japan, and South Korea wrapping up a 3-day drill in the East China Sea on Friday. While the exercises were underway, President Biden hosted the leaders of Japan and the Philippines. Their conversation focused on Beijing's rising aggression in disputed waters.
I would once again just reiterate that the United States, working with our allies in the regions, that South Korea and Japan are well prepared, well postured to defend ourselves and to defend our allies.
The exercises involved a number of U.S. and South Korean missile destroyers and a Japanese warship. This comes after China's rising aggression in the South China Sea. Chinese Coast Guard ships have rammed Filipino boats, fired water cannons at them, and directed lasers at their crew members, all because of territory disputes. Top officials from the U.S. and Philippines are meeting at the State Department. Top on their agenda is the dispute over the South China Sea.
But more importantly is we are determined to assert our sovereign rights, especially within our exclusive economic zone, and in accordance with the UNCLOS and the arbitral ruling.
The meeting includes defense and foreign secretaries from the 2 countries and their national security advisors. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said the U.S. is in lockstep with the Philippines against coercion in the South China Sea. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the 2 nations have a shared commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific, including in the South China Sea. The meeting came a day after the leaders of the U.S., Japan, and the Philippines met at the White House. Hours earlier, the Chinese regime summoned Japanese and Philippine diplomats to express dissatisfaction over the Thursday summit. China striking back at American defense companies over arms sales to Taiwan. That's on the same day President Biden met with the leaders of Japan and the Philippines to discuss the importance of this first ever trilateral summit and the U.S. relationship with China. NTD's Steve Lance spoke with Michigan Congressman John Moolenaar. He's also the incoming chair of the House Select Committee on the CCP.
Congressman John Moolenaar, thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure.
Congressman, I want to talk to you about the trilateral meeting between President Biden and the leaders of the Philippines and Japan. How important is that relationship, specifically when it comes to China's stance in the South China Sea?
Well, I think it's really important that we continue to build strong relationships with our allies, friendly nations throughout Asia, and this would be an example of doing that. We heard from the Prime Minister today here at the Capitol, and he did a tremendous job talking about the close relationship, the alliance with Japan, the United States. I'm really pleased that Philippines is now part of this process, and South Korea and other nations. Very important that we work together, freedom-loving countries that want to respect the rule of law and continue to have markets and peace.
When it comes to Taiwan's sovereignty, China is stepping up their aggression toward the United States, sanctioning U.S. military companies from entering China now because of the recent arms sale to Taiwan. Talk to us about this relationship.
Well, it's an important relationship, and we have laws in place that have clearly identified that we will help Taiwan defend itself. And I was just there in the last couple of months. We met with President Tsai, with incoming President-elect Lai, and they are a strategic ally. They are a freedom-loving people who have free elections. And to me, it's important that they are recognized as a key partner in this process.
Congressman, you are now the chairman of the CCP, or will be very soon, the CCP Select Committee. This committee's gotten a lot of attention. It's been praised for doing some excellent bipartisan work. What are going to be some of your top priorities?
Well, it's important that we take a fresh look at the relationship with China. We need to reset that relationship. The China of 30 years ago is very different than the China of today, even 5 years ago. They've become more aggressive at home, abroad, militarily, and it's important that we reset that relationship. It's also important that we deter aggression towards Taiwan as well as around the world. They're increasingly more aggressive, and we want to continue to build strong alliances, strong partnerships throughout the region, throughout the world. Freedom-loving countries, countries that respect the rule of law. And to me, it's important that we compete and win this competition economically, militarily, and protect freedom around the world.
Is blood in the water around Taiwan? Several large manufacturers on the island are weighing whether to open secondary headquarters overseas. That's to mitigate disruptions in case China invades Taiwan. The Chinese Communist Party sees Taiwan as part of its territory, even though it has never controlled the island. Beijing has pledged to take control of Taiwan by force if necessary. KPMG is a tax and auditing giant. A partner at its Taiwan subsidiary told the Financial Times that he has clients planning for a second headquarters, so there is a backup in case of an emergency. The country head of a global consultant firm in Taiwan told his clients this: "You have to ask yourselves, if a conflict forces us to cease operations in Taiwan for 6 months or a year, can we survive? You don't need investor relations there, but you can't survive without finance, payroll, and receivables." As for location options, Singapore, Japan, Switzerland, and the Netherlands are among the options for new headquarters. The U.S. is reportedly not on the list due to tax reasons. If a conflict ever happens, the U.S. could be impacted as well. Right now, Taiwan makes over 90% of the most advanced semiconductors used in America. Switching gears, newly disclosed emails are highlighting connections between U.S. health authorities and the infamous Wuhan virology lab in China. A top advisor to Dr. Anthony Fauci corresponded with a zoologist who funneled money to the lab. Emails show that the advisor, Dr. David Moran, sent at least 4 messages to Peter Daszak, a British zoologist who's also the president of EcoHealth Alliance. The emails were sent in April 2020, July 2020, and February 2022 using Moran's personal email account. The exchanges focused on a grant from the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases to EcoHealth, earmarked for research on bat coronaviruses. EcoHealth funneled money from that grant to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. That's the lab under scrutiny for potentially being the origin of COVID-19. The grants have since been suspended. The House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic released the new emails Thursday, saying they came from a whistleblower. Chair of the committee, Congressman Brad Wenstrup, said the emails show, quote, further attempts by Dr. Morens to subvert public transparency. That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for 3 years. If you'd like to support us, consider donating. Find us at donorbox.org/China-in-focus or subscribe to our partner platform Epic TV, where you can watch our full episodes. Just click the link down below. Here's what to look out for in our second half. From hiding a virus outbreak to human rights abuses, the Chinese Communist Party's malign influence at the United Nations is the focus at a congressional hearing.
Even though China's financial contributions to the UN remain comparatively small, the CCP has become adept at manipulating the UN system for its own advantage.
Hundreds of millions of dollars in gift card dollars stolen by criminals. How Chinese organized crime could be involved. Maine lawmakers taking a stand on a bill that would target illegal Chinese-run marijuana farms in the state. More on their decision after the break here on China in Focus. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. See you soon.